Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I'm going to be your host this afternoon, and for the next hour or so, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into the world of Dodgers baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers are 11-4 right now, but we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into some of the main storylines of what we are seeing so far in the season, 15 games into the season, perhaps things that should be of a little bit of concern. We're going to be talking about Edwin Diaz. We're going to be talking about Kyle Tucker, both of whom have at least a little bit of concerns that you can have early in the season. We're going to be addressing both of those. Did the Los Angeles Dodgers during the offseason, which those two players were the two big signings for the Los Angeles Dodgers, did they make the correct decision? Obviously, far too early to answer that, but we'll be talking about different ways or different things to be able to look out in order to help answer that question for the Dodgers. A little bit of a deep dive into other aspects of the organization, as well as a little bit of a deep dive into some of the players, some of the storylines of what we are seeing down on the farm as well. Going to be a fun show, going to be action or really fast paced with a lot of information shown at you guys. I'm going to be doing my best to be able to get through as much of this information as I possibly can first, and then be able to interact with you guys in the comment section. So please leave a bunch of comments down below in the chat. I'll be happy to get to those as soon as I possibly can if I have time to be able to do so. So thank you for tuning in. Going to be a fun show to be able to do it. First off, let's take a little bit of an overview of where this organization is at. So Dodgers, as I had mentioned at the top of the show, 11-4. That is a great start to the season. It is the best record in the game of baseball right now. It starts first with the Los Angeles Dodgers offense. They have a 143 WRC plus currently right now, weighted runs created plus, a statistical measure that's intended to be able to showcase how good you are as an offensive performer. Above 100 is above league average. They currently rank first in that category. And the reason why they have been so successful as an offense is because up and down this lineup, the Los Angeles Dodgers have a ton of power threats, and even guys that are on the bench, as we'll get into somebody in just a little bit who's hitting for power when he's getting opportunities. The Dodgers are hitting for a ton of power. They rank first in isolated power with a 205 isolated power. And for context, the next highest ISO across Major League Baseball is 179. There is a 26-point gap between the Dodgers' isolated power and the next highest team in baseball. Same thing with their expected weighted on base average, basically intended to be able to look at their measure of contact quality. It's a 379 as an offense right now. The next highest, 356, 20 to 25 points below what they're at. They also aren't a team with as much power as they have that is striking out at an extreme degree. They're currently around middle of the pack in strikeout percentage at about 20.5. They're swinging at a lot of the right pitches. A lot of pitches inside the zone. They're towards the top in zone swing percentage, while also towards the top of the league, meaning they don't swing a whole lot at pitches outside of the zone. They have a really low out of zone swing percentage. Offensively, they're doing fantastic. Pitching, they're also getting a lot of help from their pitching side as well. Was a little bit more middle of the pack, and certainly with strikeouts and walks, that's kind of where the Dodgers are at right now. But they have a 3.63 ERA. That's ninth in the game of baseball. And one of the reasons why they've been so successful is opposing teams are just not hitting the Dodgers pitchers hard at all. 34.2% hard hit percentage, lowest across Major League Baseball. That's great. They are also really good at throwing sliders and splitters. By run value, Dodgers are the best in the game of baseball at that. Again, continuing on some of the pitching side, again, I'm doing just broad scale storylines for how this team is doing, get a sense where the Dodgers are at statistically compared to the league. Then we'll dive into some of the individual players in just a second. Innings pitched. This is something that's really important to be able to look out for. The Dodgers, as a bullpen, have the sixth fewest innings pitched for a bullpen. I said I think it was last week, but for this season, the Dodgers as a bullpen collectively should be in the bottom 10 in baseball in number of innings pitched by a bullpen. The reason why that's so important is because this unit got worked a whole lot last year, and after back-to-back years of going to and winning the World Series, They need to make sure those guys are rested. Otherwise, they're going to deal with a lot of injuries out of that unit. Bullpen, 6th lowest ERA. They also have the 10th lowest ERA as a bullpen, 3.40. The starters, 3.78 ERA for them. Also, and this is one of the things that's been most surprising that has made this team more complete. Pitching has been solid. Offense has been great. The defense has been great for the Dodgers so far. They are the best team by defensive runs saved, and they're top 3 by outs above average fielding run value. You can say whatever you want about those particular defensive metrics or how defense is actually measured, but if all 3 of those are agreeing that the Dodgers are one of the better defenses in the game of baseball so far, that shows real progress by this Dodgers team. One of the biggest surprises in this, and perhaps for Dodgers fans, they don't see this necessarily as a surprise, but from a statistical standpoint has been a really good bounce back for him, is Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman has in the past graded out by these 3 defensive metrics, at least within the past couple of years, as being around average to slightly below league average. You might totally disagree with that or say that those statistics don't cover all of what Freddie Freeman is able to do. I don't disagree with that completely. But the defensive metrics for Freddie Freeman so far have been great early in the season, and shows that Max Muncy might be making a little bit of improvements. Still very early by those metrics, and I don't expect this to be a top 3 defensive unit in the game of baseball, but some early signs to be able to watch from the Dodgers as an offensive team. But the Dodgers are not without some of their issues. The Dodgers are not without some of the struggles or some of the things that could be alarming or concerning. And let's talk first about, on the offensive side, let's talk about Kyle Tucker first. Kyle Tucker was brought to the Los Angeles Dodgers to be an offensive threat in the game of baseball. If you look at the past 5 years, this is something we noted during the offseason, Kyle Tucker is a top 10 to 15 player in the game of baseball. I think he's top 10, but I'm going to put 10 to 15 just to put a little bit of extra wiggle room for myself. Kyle Tucker has been a top 10 to 15 hitter in the game of baseball within the past 5 years. He has been remarkably consistent as a hitter because of his ability to be able to draw a lot of walks, not strike out a whole lot, while also being able to hit the baseball hard. He is, when he is right, relatively boring as a baseball player because of how remarkably consistent he is. And yet, he has not been that type of player so far this year. Let's read through some of the numbers with Kyle Tucker this year. It's a 95 WRC+. It is slightly below league average to this point of the season. It is a .07 isolated power, meaning he's not hitting for a lot of power. And you look at the expected results, it's a 304 expected weighted on base average for Kyle Tucker. That's not great. It also comes with a 24% strikeout percentage. That is way higher than what it has been throughout basically the entirety of his career, and especially the past couple of seasons for Kyle Tucker. Why is that? Why are we not getting the successful version of Kyle Tucker? What should fans be watching out for? Or what are some of the very concerning signs that we are seeing for him? Or perhaps some of the adjustments that he needs to make. And this is where I've got to give a little bit of credit, not a little bit of credit, absolute credit to there's some interactions that have been going on. Jeff Spiegel has been going on and diving into this. Also Jacob Brownson, both of them dove into this a little bit this morning, this afternoon. Some of their notes, I was able to dive in, verify some of that, so I'm giving them credit for them being able to do some of the research. I'll add a little bit of additional stuff with the quality of contact, but let's address the strikeouts first, because Kyle Tucker should not be striking out at 24% clip. Why is that? Why are we seeing some of the changes in what we're seeing? First, I'm going to cut over to one of Jeff's tweets that he had right here, just so you guys give him credit for right here. A couple of things that we're noticing. And this is from 2025 to 2026, I believe is what it is. Whiff percentage, up 7%. Chase percentage, up 7%, 6.5% or so. Swing percentage, also up big. Kyle Tucker, typically within the past couple of years, has been more of a 40 to 45% swing percentage type of guy. That has jumped up to the 50s, which is one of the upper percentages of swing percentage in the game of baseball. And then this is the big one that he's noting, and then we'll get into Jacob's post in just a second. His first pitch swing percentage has jumped up 22% over the past year-to-year type of trend, 2025 to 2026, from 36% to 58%. And for note, and this is what they've been going back and forth on, it's the biggest jump in percentages, year-on-year change in first pitch percentage, only behind Juan Soto, who's dealing with some injuries right now. And if you go down here, Jacob Brownson has a really good post. Highly recommend you diving into this. And he really shows what the difference is with Kyle Tucker being up 1-0 versus down 0-1. This is Jacob Brownson's post right here. Really good numbers that he was able to pull right here. And a lot of pitchers seemingly attacking Kyle Tucker a lot more inside of the strike zone. So what we're seeing from Kyle Tucker, and this is something that perhaps you guys have noticed as well, he's swinging a lot more with his bat. He is turning from somebody who has been a more patient type of hitter to a much more aggressive hitter at the plate. And this is a couple of reasons. One, pitchers are attacking him a little bit more in the heart of the zone, or just overall in the zone as well. And Kyle Tucker has not been able to take advantage of that. He's swinging a lot more, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Now, I've talked a lot about heart zone, shadow zone, chase, and waist zone, the 4 different zones of the strike zone. Heart being inside the strike zone, shadow being around the strike zone, and then the chase and waist being variation degrees of outside the strike zone, chase a little bit closer to the strike zone than the waist pitches. Kyle Tucker is swinging more in the heart of the zone. It's up about 4% from year over year than what it was last year. That's a good thing. At general basis, if you swing more at pitches in the heart of the zone, you have the opportunity to be able to do more damage. What he is also doing, and this is where Kyle Tucker needs to be able to take a little bit of a step back and rein in his approach at the plate, is that 4% increase in heart percentage swings is also corresponding with a big increase into the shadow and then chase and waist percentage swings. If you look at the shadow and chase waist percentage swings year over year, all of those are up about 10% for Kyle Tucker, meaning there's a marginal good thing that he's doing by swinging in the heart of the zone. But that's corresponding with 3 bad things. Swinging in the shadow zone, which you could argue is not necessarily good or bad. I would argue that the numbers in the shadow zone aren't necessarily great. They can be good, and you can do damage in that, but it's not necessarily the greatest in that pitches. Swinging in the heart of the zone would be what I would recommend. But the chase and waist zones, that consistently year over year, not pitches you're going to do a whole lot of damage in. And Kyle Tucker in both of those zones, at least to this point of the career, the swing percentage is up 10% than what it was last year, going from it's up pretty dramatically for Kyle Tucker in both of those zones. Just overall, swinging a lot at the first pitches, being more aggressive, it's putting him in a hole in the zone. And also, this is something that I noticed very readily. He's also just not taking advantage of pitches that are there for him. While he's swinging more at the heart of the zone, his expected weighted on base average for pitches in the heart of the zone, 290 right now. Last year, that mark was 404. It's a drop of over 100 points for Kyle Tucker in the heart of the zone with what the damage he's able to do. If you look at the shadow zone as well, 285 expected weighted on base average this year, 325 last year. A drop of about 40 points in both of those categories. Just the overall quality of contact is not necessarily good. He's hitting more ground balls, 40% ground ball percentage for him. Pull air percentage is only at 16.7%. Just overall, things seem to be a little bit out of whack for Kyle Tucker. And I think this is not necessarily to do with the type of player that Kyle Tucker actually is. I think this has a little bit more to do, and this is the conclusion that Jeff and Jacob, which again, I'm going to try to recommend, check out the work that both of them were able to do. They were some of the people that were looking very closely into this storyline and trying to be able to find rationale as to what exactly is going on with that. I think he's pressing a little bit. And I think their conclusion that he's pressing a little bit is actually is an accurate one, because this is not the type of player, especially with how much he's actually swinging at pitches, especially first pitches, especially pitches outside of the zone. It's not the Kyle Tucker that it should be. That's not the Kyle Tucker that we know it can be. And making that slight adjustment, forcing pitchers to come and attack him a little bit more, even if that decreases what his heart zone percentage is. I think if you decrease that a little bit, while also being able to sacrifice or lower some of the chase and waste percentage pitches that he's actually swinging, I think that's when we get to the ideal version of Kyle Tucker that's had a lot of success, that swings 40 to 45% of the pitches he's at. And I think when he does that, when he gets his approach right, I think we're going to see a lot of good things for Kyle Tucker going forward. One thing I do want to note, and this is something that we're going to be able to do on the show, something that is new from last time, but not new if you are around this channel. Kyle Tucker was a big offseason signing for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And one thing I want us to be able to do is I want us to be able to hold ourselves and the organization accountable, while also being able to learn from decisions that the organization has made. So, Kyle Tucker, big offseason signing for the Los Angeles Dodgers. What we're going to do, and something we're going to keep track on, is how did the Dodgers do with this particular signing, and what is his numbers, Kyle Tucker's numbers, in comparison to some of the other options that we had talked about during this offseason. So what I have right over here is a early look. Again, very early. We're talking about anywhere between 50 and 75 plate appearances for each one of these guys. But these are some of the players that were very well talked about during the course of the offseason as potential options for the Los Angeles Dodgers to sign or trade for. This divided line right here, options that the Dodgers could have traded for, options the Dodgers could have signed for. And what I want us to be able to do throughout the course of the season is at least be able to look to see how these players are doing. And then what we can do with this information is, if Kyle Tucker is not the best player of this bunch, what are some things that we perhaps missed, or perhaps the organization should have looked at a little bit closer to make the next offseason's analysis a little bit better. This is going to be a little bit of a running tab. But Kyle Tucker, 95 WRC+. These are the 2026 season statistics. These are the 2023 to 2025 statistics, the previous 3 season statistics, just a little bit of a reference and comparison, and also perhaps a little bit of guidance and expectation of where perhaps they should be doing, what they should be doing going forward, and hope. So, for example, Kyle Tucker, 95 WRC+. Bo Bichette was one of I remember the conversations of, should the Dodgers sign Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette? And there was a lot of people in the Kyle Tucker camp. There was also a large amount of people in the Bo Bichette camp. And we have to be honest whether we were in either one. And we're also going to see which one was actually better. Bo Bichette, to this point of the season, just a 73 WRC+. Dodgers will have a chance to be able to see Bo Bichette tonight against the New York Mets as they start that series. Cody Bellinger, 103 WRC+. Harrison Bader really struggling. Yastrzemski struggling. Mullins struggling. Buxton struggling. Kwan around the average, right around where a lot of the projections had him. Wilyer Abreu's doing well. Brendan Donovan's doing well. Luis Robert Jr., who the Dodgers will also see tonight, is doing well. And Taylor Ward is doing well. This is something we're going to at least keep an eye on. We are not going to draw conclusions on April 13th whether the Dodgers made a correct decision with signing Kyle Tucker, but I want to introduce this as part of the show as more of a, let's keep track of this together. Let's look to see if the Dodgers made an accurate or a correct decision with the signing of Kyle Tucker, because, well, the numbers could say one thing at the beginning of the offseason. Perhaps there's some things that we totally could have missed. And I want us to be able to dive into that together with Kyle Tucker. Some of the things to be able to watch, as Jeff Spiegel, Jacob Brownson have been diving into some of the numbers. First pitch swing percentage has to go down, less aggressive. He's one of the most aggressive hitters at the first pitch early in the season. If that drops, if he drops his swing percentage down a little bit and is able to make a little bit more ideal type of contact, which I'm sure he's working on the hitting coaches to be able to do that, and just relax, I think we'll start to see the Kyle Tucker of old which has been consistently a 130 to 140 WRC plus type of hitter. If he is that in this lineup that can hit both lefties and righties, that is a tremendous piece in the lineup. And it is awe-inspiring that the Dodgers lineup still leads the league in WRC plus, still has the highest isolated power, most home runs in the league. I think most home runs in the league, at least the highest amount of power in the league, without having the full picture or full number 2 hitter in the order firing on full cylinders. That's the update on Kyle Tucker. The other big signing for the Los Angeles Dodgers was Edwin Diaz. And Edwin Diaz has been in the news the past couple of days because he's not been available for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the biggest thing that has been of note from a lot of different reports, we won't get into the report. Katie Wu from The Athletic had a really good piece. Highly recommend you check it out. I'm not going to be talking about that specifically, about the signing of Edwin Diaz. That was what her piece was about. But I wanted to focus on specifically of why Edwin Diaz has not been available for the Dodgers. And there's been some really weird and concerning things from the Dodgers organization. It's specifically related to his fastball velocity. His fastball velo is down. That is not just something the Dodgers are making up. That is something that you can actually judge based off of the data. You look at the past 2 seasons, his fastball velo has been about 97.5, roughly around that mark. Previously, a couple of years before his injury, it was sitting more 98, 99. This year, the past 2 years, it's by 97.5. This year, it's about 95.8 is his average fastball velo. A drop of about 1.7 miles per hour on his fastball velo, which, go back to last week, we were concerned about Emmett Sheehan and his fastball velo. Yes, there was a lot of concern with that. He was able to make that adjustment and be able to get into that. But a dip in fastball velo decreases the effectiveness of that pitch. And we've seen a decrease in effectiveness of Edwin Diaz and his pitch. You look at his whiff percentage early in the season, very early in the season, but on his fastball. Its whiff percentage on his fastball is down from 39.4% the previous year to 13.5%. A drop of velo of 1.7 is significant for him, and just overall whiff percentage, it's down close to 20% year on year, and there's a very good reason why it could be that fastball velo. Edwin Diaz needs both his fastball and his slider to be effective. The Dodgers are holding him back. But the Dodgers have also offered a little bit of an excuse as to what's going on, claiming that Edwin Diaz has in the past been a little bit of a slow build up his fastball velo. So what I wanted to be able to do for you guys, wanted to do the research. Is that actually true? As we talked about a little bit, I want to keep us and the Dodgers organization accountable to the decisions that they make. Make sure that everything is going right and that the organization is telling the truth. What has Edwin Diaz's fastball velo been like first 6 appearances, which is what he has pitched so far this year, versus what it has ended up been at the end of the season? So what I want to be able to do, let's look at his past 4 seasons, 2021, 2022, 2024, and 2025, to see if this is actually true. Let's start in 2025. Let's go reverse year, so going back in time, 2025. After his first 6 appearances, Edwin Diaz had an average fastball velo, 96.3. The end result of the season, 97.2. An increase once he got the season going, about 0.9 miles per hour on his fastball. 2024, first 6 appearances, 96.7 miles per hour on his fastball. Ended up being 97.5 average, 0.8 difference between the two. In 2022, 98.1 was his average in the first 6 starts, ended up being 99.1. 2021, 97.8 is where it started out, first 6 appearances, ended up being 98.8. That is, if you go back the past 4 years that the Edwin Diaz has pitched, about an average of 0.7 miles per hour difference from his first 6 appearances to his overall average. So that's not even comparing his first 6 appearances to his last however many appearances. That's comparing his first 6 to the overall, which includes his first 6 as well. Is his drop on those first 6 of 0.7 miles per hour. And that the Los Angeles Dodgers are telling the truth. Edwin Diaz, the past couple of years, especially his past 3 seasons that he's pitched, has been a slow build-up in his fastball velo. The question is why? And this is an answer that I don't have, and this is perhaps why the Dodgers organization has been perhaps slow or perhaps a really cautious in this approach with Edwin Diaz, because they want to be able to get the answer correct as to why Edwin Diaz is pitching a little bit slower with his fastball. Why is he a little bit of a slow starter? And is it for certain that Edwin Diaz is going to, as he gets older, going to be able to help maintain his fastball velo? And just overall with the concern with Edwin Diaz, you go back to some of the notes, 2022 average fastball velo of 99. This year, 95.8, from 99 to 96 over the past, since 2022 to 2026. That is perhaps concerning, and even if you have Edwin Diaz on a short-term basis, as he gets older, is the velo going to dip? And if the velo dipped in very brief amount of appearances, but we've also seen the whiff percentage drop dramatically on his fastball, are we going to see the effectiveness of Edwin Diaz start to dip as well? That is something the organization is going to be helping to decipher. And part of the decision is, does this require a little bit more of a longer look? And are we going to have to perhaps have Edwin Diaz take some sort of time on the injured list to try to figure out or perhaps ensure that nothing is wrong with him? Because that is the most important thing with Edwin Diaz, is you want to make sure that he is healthy as long as he possibly can be, and that the investment that the Dodgers made in Edwin Diaz last until October, last until they actually need to make sure he's ready to go, ready to pitch. Because the signing of Edwin Diaz was as Casey has pointed out in the past, we can't have our starters keep coming in and saving our butts in games. Urias 20, Buehler 24, Yamamoto 25. The hope is 26, Edwin Diaz. But if he's not effective, or if he's not healthy, or if there's any question marks, the Dodgers are going to be overly cautious with that. I know everybody wants to see Edwin Diaz tonight against the New York Mets. Make sure he's healthy. Make sure he's ready to go before you do anything. And if he is not, you can't have Edwin Diaz just taking up a roster spot in the Dodgers bullpen. You have to make some sort of switch, and you have to put him on the injured list. That's one of the things to watch out for over the next couple of days, to be able to see if that is happening for the Dodgers. Also, similar to how I did this, and we'll go ahead and get this pulled up for you guys. There's not a ton of takeaways because it's 6 innings pitched. It is a couple innings here and there. But similar to how we have the outfielders, there is also a lot of options that the Dodgers could have signed right-handed relievers. They ended up signing Edwin Diaz, but there's guys, remember from the offseason, like Devin Williams and Robert Suarez and Raisel Iglesias. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. Let's make sure you guys can go ahead and see this. Raisel Iglesias, Brad Keller, Ryan Helsley, so on and so forth. A bunch of different options that they have. We're going to be tracking this as the season goes along to see if Edwin Diaz was actually the right person for the job, or if there were other options that are available. Just a couple of notes on this. This 5 ERA, basically that's just an average of ERA, expected ERA, FIP, expected FIP, and SIERA all together. Some of these a little bit different than each other. I kind of looked to see what the general average is. It's not a weighted average, and it's not saying that, for example, I think SIERA is the best ERA estimate out there. It's not giving more weight to that. It's just a overall general average of where it's at. But you can look at this: strikeout, walk percentage, strikeout minus walk percentage, chase, whiff, and stuff plus, while also being able to compare that to the 2023 to 2025 statistics. This is going to be some things that we're going to keep an eye out for. So far early in the season, Devin Williams, Robert Suarez, Raisel Iglesias, all pitching well. Same thing with Tyler Rogers, and Kenley Jansen's also pitched well for the Tigers in his very brief appearances that he's had. So we're going to be keeping track of this as the season goes along to be able to help provide a little bit of additional clarification as to whether or not Edwin Diaz was the best signing, or whether the strategy of going out and signing big name relievers is actually a good strategy for the Dodgers to be able to go ahead and pursue. Or should the strategy be, let's go ahead and perhaps not invest as much money into that, but let's invest in very specific skill sets out of the relief role that we believe we can go ahead and help develop, and perhaps quantity in that aspect is going to be the better approach to be able to take with how volatile the relievers are. Just some things to watch with Edwin Diaz. Big series coming up. Dodgers and New York Mets. Mets just got swept by the Athletics, so the Mets are looking to rebound. Just a couple of pitching matchup wise, it's going to be Robo, Yamamoto, and Ohtani going for the Los Angeles Dodgers. For the Mets, it's going to be Peterson. It is going to be McLean, and then it's going to be Clay Holmes, I believe, is going to be the pitching order rotation for both of those teams. Just going off of memory right now. If that's wrong, you can blame me on that. All right, a couple of other notes for the Los Angeles Dodgers and their roster. Again, this is not going to entail all the individual details of what's going on the Dodgers team. Just some things that I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and some notes to be able to dive into, particularly on the statistical side of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Emmett Sheehan was somebody that I had noted, or we had talked about during the previous Monday show, as somebody to be able to keep an eye out for. His fastball velo was down. His fastball was through his first two starts, one of the worst pitches in the game of baseball by run value. It was getting absolutely hammered. I think last time we talked about it having a 642 expected weighted on base average through the first two appearances. His fastball velo was back up on Saturday. That was incredibly encouraging. Not just the overall performance that he had, but the fact that his velo was up perhaps goes to show that it was a little bit more mechanical, a little bit more of a slower build-up that he needed to be able to take. Averaged 95.2 on Saturday, 95, about 96 in the first. Did drop down by the sixth inning to 94.5. But the early fastball velo being up, even though got hit with the home run early, first batter of the game, seeing the fastball velo up is a good, encouraging sign to where if he can get back to that, I think we can feel a little bit more confident with Emmett Sheehan being part of this rotation. And again, with the Dodgers rotation, you need at least 4 guys out of the 6 that you feel comfortable with. So far as you feel comfortable with Glasnow, Ohtani, Yamamoto, and to this point, I've been comfortable with Robleski. If you add in a 5th one and feel comfortable with Emmett Sheehan, that's going to provide you with a lot of innings for your team to where you're not relying on the bullpen as much going forward. Not to mention, Blake Snell will be coming back at some point, and we'll get into a River Ryan update here in just a little bit. A little bit of additional update with Tanner Scott as well. Tanner Scott, really solid. Still has not given up a walk. 33% strikeout percentage. Also 33.3 strikeout minus walk percentage. Insane stuff. Still looks really good. His pitch percentage in the heart of the zone when it's a 0-2, 1-2, or 2-2 count also dropped a little bit from what it was last week. Last week it was about 27% overall. Now it's about 23%. Which, again, when we're talking about Tanner Scott, one of the biggest things that he's got to avoid is throwing pitches in the middle of the zone when he has leverage in those counts. 0-2, 1-2, 2-2. Tanner Scott should not be throwing a lot of pitches at all in the heart of the zone. Last year it was 26%. So far this year it's 23.3%. If he can dip that down closer to league average at about 20% or even below that, you're going to see Tanner Scott, who's already super effective, continue to be even more effective and a great weapon out of this Dodgers bullpen. He's been really encouraging to watch so far this season. Let's talk about a couple of other players out of the bullpen. First off, we'll talk about somebody who's been struggling a little bit, Ben Kasparias. I'm not overly concerned, but the biggest thing with Kasparias, he's just not locating his pitches so far this season. It's a 17.4% walk percentage on the season, exact same as his strikeout percentage. If you look at the percent of pitches that he's pitching inside the zone, it's sub 40. It's about 38.4%, much lower than what it's been in the past. He's still able to get a decent amount of chase, but when you're living that much outside of the zone, it's going to be really difficult to be able to have success. Combine that with there's been some hard hit balls off to Ben Kasparius, and that has led to some of the lack of success that he's had so far this season. I'm not long-term overly concerned, but the command is something he's going to have to fix in order to maintain his spot as part of this bullpen. Again, Kasparius has minor league options this year. Somebody that also has a minor league option, can be optioned this year, or just has one option year left remaining, but is absolutely dominant, Will Klein. I just want you guys to be able to look at Will Klein's Baseball Savant page right here, 2026 percentile, 7 2/3 innings for him. Just consistent across the board, really good stuff. Velo high as it usually is. He's able to get a decent amount of chase, strikeout percentage 30%. Biggest thing with Will Klein is, in the past, he's been somebody that's walked a ton of hitters. If it sits at 10%, Will Klein is going to be really effective at the major league level. Also, nobody is hitting Will Klein hard, and when they are hitting it, 55.6% of the time, it's being hit on the ground. Will Klein is somebody to watch going forward, especially with the limited amount of roster flexibility that the Dodgers organization has with Will Klein going forward. I think it was my expectation that this year would probably be the last year of Will Klein. If he continues to have this level of success, the Dodgers are not going to option Will Klein down to the minor leagues, and he's going to maintain a part of this Dodgers bullpen, maintain a part of this Dodgers roster going forward. And you could see Will Klein potentially being one of those success stories of the Dodgers when we talk about them helping build a bullpen, help build up the next guys that are going to be part of the bullpen, part of this pitching staff. Will Klein could be part of that success story to where, man, especially with right-handed high leverage relievers, not really having a ton of options aside from Edwin Diaz, could we see Will Klein turn into that? I've talked in the past about perhaps Edgardo Henriquez with his stuff plus being phenomenal, turning into that guy. Maybe it's Will Klein all along that could be that next high leverage right-handed reliever that the Dodgers are able to develop. Something to watch going forward. Speaking of the Dodgers developing, I want to ask you guys a question. Fangraphs wins above replacement. Among Dodgers position players, who do you think is third in the Dodgers position players by Fangraphs wins above replacement this year so far? Give you a minute to be able to answer that. And there's so many different superstars that you could turn to as far as being the third among the leaderboard for wins above replacement for the Dodgers. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to pull this up. I didn't have this pulled up, but we can go ahead and pull this up for you guys. This is for any of the hitters that are on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And this is filled with superstars. You have the tremendous start to the season by Andy Pages. You also have seen the recent coming out of Max Muncy go have a ton of success. Andy Pages, I'm just going to give a spoiler, is first on this list. Fangraphs wins above replacement. You also have Shohei Ohtani. Give you a spoiler. Shohei Ohtani is number 2. And also another spoiler. Max Muncy is not number 3. No, who's number 3, Fangraphs wins above replacement, intending to be able to provide value for your team. Number 3 is Dalton Rushing. While everybody else seemingly has 50 to 70 plate appearances on the list as far as main contributors for the Dodgers, it is Dalton Rushing who has a .6 Fangraphs wins above replacement this far, in part because he's hitting when he actually is playing. A 417 weighted runs created plus. He's got the 3 home runs. His isolated power is 769 this far. Again, super small sample size, but even the quality of contact, 705 expected weighted on base average. League average is about 320-ish. His is 705. That's like a 705 on base percentage, but also weighting, which value is actually good. Insane start to the season for Dalton Rushing. Also intended to be able to help showcase you guys. One, it's far too early in the season to draw conclusions. Dalton Rushing could fall back into his tendencies of chasing too much, or not necessarily chasing too much because he doesn't really chase, but swinging and missing too much to where he loses his effectiveness on the plate. But be patient with guys. This is something I preached during the offseason when I showed you guys the similarities in the numbers statistically. Not saying that they're going to be the same player at all. Again, they will not be the same player. But some of the similarities and some of the struggles that we saw with Aaron Judge compared to the numbers with Dalton Rushing in their first season, the numbers are very similar to each other. And there's a lot of signs that Dalton Rushing is going to be an impactful bat at the major league level, not just because he was successful at the minor leagues, but because at the major leagues there is power indicators that he can do well. And he's starting to lean into this role. And now that he's leaning into this role, it is going to be up to the Dodgers organization to be able to try to find different avenues for him to be able to get more playing time, to be able to go ahead and find some more of a sustained role. Because if you have somebody who can even have close to that level of success as a young 24-year-old, he's not a prospect anymore, but prospect-like player that could mold into the future of your organization, you want him to be part of the mix. Now, it's going to be very difficult because you also have Freddie Freeman, you have Will Smith, you have Shohei Ohtani, and even if you wanted to move Will Smith to third base, you have Max Muncy, who is still proving that he belongs to be part of this mix for the Dodgers, not just with his 3 home run performance, but just overall with what Max Muncy has been able to provide. But if Dalton Rushing keeps going out there, the Dodgers are going to be forced to make decisions on how to have playing time for Rushing going forward. And that is going to be a good problem for the Dodgers organization to have, because even if there is not necessarily a whole lot of playing time that you can find for Dalton Rushing, having somebody on your bench that you can rely as an offensive piece, especially on the left-handed side, something that the Dodgers could take advantage of going forward. That is on the major league side with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'll get to some of your questions and comments as I have time. But what I want to do is I want to transfer over into the minor league aspect and give you a little bit of an update on the minor league side of things. First off, Dodgers organization minor league side. Overall record. The Dodgers have a .634 win percentage at the minor league level. They're 25-16. That is the second highest win percentage across all major league front offices as to their 4 minor league affiliates. Overall, if you combine minor league and major league records, the Dodgers are 37-19. That is tied for first in winning percentage with a .661 winning percentage. Why am I bringing up winning percentage of the minor league? The minor league games don't count. The Dodgers value it because it helps build a culture of winning at the minor league level that can help translate to the major league level so that guys know what it takes to be able to win. Guys know the expectation that down at the minor league level, the expectation is to win. The expectation is excellence. The expectation is you are going to do things the right way. And I think that really helps bridges the gap to the major league level as well, to where even if there is a little bit of there's a little bit of a gap in what players need to be able to do because of the gap between AAA and Major League pitching is vastly different. They still know the expectation, and there is not an issue culture-wise in the Dodgers bringing up young players and being able to add them to the mix. Offensively, at the minor league level, the Dodgers' offensive players have a 120 WRC plus, that they have a 363 on base percentage, 52 home runs, and a 177 ISO. That is third, fourth, first, and second, respectively. Overall, the Dodgers' offense at the minor league level is really hitting. And on the pitching side, it's really the lower levels that are having a lot of success. Great Lakes, the high A affiliate of the Dodgers, 3 ERA this season, a 35% strikeout percentage, and a 21% strikeout minus walk percentage. I was in West Michigan to watch Great Lakes, their affiliate, 4 times this past week, and on Thursday, they struck out 14 West Michigan Whitecap hitters, and on Friday, they struck out 15. There is a lot of swing and miss stuff that they have at the Great Lakes level. And on Ontario, which, by the way, congratulations to Marlon Nieves, we'll not get into on this show. Should have had him as part of the show, but we're not going to get into him just because I've not had the chance to be able to watch him as much. So I try to leave a little bit of that, a little bit more to Casey. He won California League Pitcher of the Week. Congratulations to him. The Ontario pitching staff is pitching to a 3.20 ERA, 30% strikeout percentage, about a 14.5% strikeout minus walk percentage. At the lower levels, the Dodgers affiliates are having a lot of success pitching wise. There also is some success with some of the upper levels as well, pitching side, but those are the two levels that are having the most relative success with the pitching side. What I want to do for the show today is I want to be able to take a little bit of a look. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take a little bit of a look for the offensive side of things. This is where I want to start off. Some of the players that are repeating at their respective levels. These are players that spent the whole season, the year prior, at this one level, and I want to do a little bit of an evaluation as to how they are actually doing during this upcoming, or the 2026 season. So 2025, they were at their respective level. 2026, how are they doing at the level so far? And where I want to be able to start off is a player on the Dodgers 40-man roster. Let's start off with Ryan Ward. Let's take a little bit of a look into Ryan Ward as to how he is doing so far this season. What we're going to do, we're going to cut over to here. This was on Saturday, I believe. Oklahoma City was down 2 runs, bottom of the 9th, 2 runners on, 2 outs. Ryan Ward comes up to the plate, walk-off home run to give the Oklahoma City Comets the victory. Ryan Ward so far this season, Wardo, 144 WRC plus, 241 isolated power. He's hitting for a decent amount of power. He's hitting the ball relatively hard so far this season. 92.5% average exit velo for him. 50% hard hit percentage. The expected weighted on base average isn't necessarily elite. 326, around league average-ish. There also is a little bit of swing and miss as part of his game. 24% strikeout percentage, about 22% whiff percentage for Wardo. Ryan Ward continues to go out there and just grind as part of the minor league level, and he's looking to be able to go ahead, bounce back, try to be able to find some sort of opportunity at the big league level. I don't know whether or not that's going to come in Los Angeles. I don't think there's going to be an opportunity just because of how limited we've seen opportunities come for guys at the minor league level, but it is great to be able to see Ryan Ward have some sort of success with Oklahoma City, and hope that's able to continue for him. Next player I want to go ahead and talk about is a player that I've talked a lot about, wrote an article about. I'm going to try to get this footage up and going for you guys. Just trying to get some of the videos go right here. I want to talk about Austin Gauthier next. Austin Gauthier, there's some video, there's some at least audio and stuff that might be coming through. Austin Gauthier, with his game, what he is doing so far, it's a 148 WRC plus on the season. Where some of the footage and stuff isn't necessarily working, so we'll go ahead and just transition to some of the notes. Gauthier, 148 WRC plus on the season, 200 isolated power. Average exit velo, he's hitting the ball hard. The reason I want to bring up Austin Gauthier, he's been at Oklahoma City since 2024, the end of 2024, I believe, or middle of 2024 is when he got called up there. Been with Oklahoma City for a decent while now. But it has only been recently since he's had success. And he actually has been somebody that's been really successful dating back to last July. If you look at his numbers, July 1st through this season, he has a 133 WRC plus in Oklahoma City, a 369 weighted on base per average, about a 46% hard hit percentage, and a 21% walk percentage for Austin Gauthier. Now, there is no doubt the strikeout's way too high for Gator to start the season. His whiff percentage is too high. He needs to lower the whiff percentage, particularly on fastballs. Fastballs is where he's struggling a little bit so far this season. But Austin Gauthier, to this point of the season, is still having some of that success, still walking a whole lot, and leaning into what has made Gator be such a successful player so far this season. Now let's transition to another player, another position player who is repeating at the same level. Let's talk a little bit and introduce you guys, if you are not familiar, with Logan Wagner. Logan Wagner, if you're not familiar, third base, second base prospect, or second baseman within the Dodgers organization. He has been somebody that has really early in the season lit into some of the power. It's a 177 WRC plus for Logan Wagner so far this season. but it's really his power that is really exploding so far this season. A 378 ISO and a 703 slugging percentage. He's got a couple of home runs, got some doubles. You can see the power that he has from the left-handed side of the plate with that home run that he had late in Saturday's game. Logan Wagner has some really serious power for him, and the reason why I think he started the season at the Great Lakes level, he's got tremendous potential. It's the swing and miss stuff. His contact percentage is around 70-ish%, low for the level that he's at. He also, right now, is swinging a whole lot, which means that when he's swinging a whole lot, it's about a 67.5% swing percentage. He's being ultra aggressive at the plate so far. There's going to be a decent amount of times where you're going to see a lot of swing and miss, and not as many opportunities for him to be able to draw walks. Logan Wagner is a really good player. He is the fan favorite of fans in Great Lakes. And it's because of his character that he has. He is going to be somebody that is going to be not just a good baseball player, because he is a good baseball player, but one of the best dudes that is out there and best people within this organization. Super proud of Gator and what he's been able to do so far this year. We'll see how long he stays at the Great Lakes level if he continues to hit for the power that he has been hitting at. Then one other player in the organization that on an offensive side of things has been hitting the ball. He has been hitting the ball well. Jaron Elkins. Jaron Elkins, for some of his numbers, this is some of the footage and stuff that you can go ahead and have. Hitting well, 189 WRC plus for Jaron Elkins, 345 ISO, which in the past he's been decent at being able to hit for power, but not necessarily the greatest strength that he's had. He's been somebody that's been leaning into that so far. And another thing about Elkins, he is able to steal a lot of bases. So far, 7 stolen bases for him on the season. I think he was in the 60s last year in stolen bases. Jaron Elkins, outfielder in the Dodgers organization, off to a really good start for the Los Angeles Dodgers system. A couple of other guys we're going to get to rapid fire through some of these other notes that we have. Noah Miller, Ryan Fitzgerald, expected quality contact, both really well. Reason why I'm bringing both of those players up, they have Hae-Sung Kim, they have Alex Freeland at the major league level. If you're looking for other options that the Dodgers could turn to at the AAA level, look no further than what Noah Miller and Ryan Fitzgerald are doing. But it's not just the on-field results, it's the expected quality, it's the quality of contact that they're hitting with. For Miller and Fitzgerald, it's a 370 and 366 expected weighted on base average, respectively, for both of them. Both of them are doing a really good job so far at the minor league level in Oklahoma City this year. Let's give a little bit of an update as to River Ryan, because a lot of people kind of curious what River Ryan is doing with the start that Roki Sasaki has had so far this season. Let's give a little bit of an update on River Ryan's statistics, because you look at 7 innings pitched, a 5.14 ERA, and you're not overly impressed in that, or you're wondering what exactly is going on with River Ryan. He's doing fine, and he's going to be just fine, because if you look and dive into some of the under the surface numbers, he's going to be just fine. 1.92 and 2.39 FIP and expected FIP so far for River Ryan this season. A 24.2 strikeout minus walk percentage, which if you're looking for one statistic that's going to help be predictive, strikeout minus walk percentage is actually pretty predictive of how a player is going to do going forward. He's able to get a near 30% whiff percentage, and expected quality of contact, 271, expected weighted on base average. That is well below league average, and the weighted on base average, league average is about 320. So that's really good sign for River Ryan. Still able to get a lot of swing and miss, still able to get the expected results that you would hope for him. It is more of a wait and see when the time is actually right or needed for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hasn't pitched a ton, and I think that is strategic by the Dodgers because they don't want to burn all of the innings that he's going to have at the Oklahoma City level just quite yet. Another player that we'll go ahead and look at is, let's give a little bit of an update on Kyle Hurt and how he's able to do. Let's get some of the footage of Kyle Hurt going for you guys. Kyle Hurt, just overall in the season, hasn't necessarily been great from a statistical result standpoint like ERA, There's been way too much walks. I think he's close to a 20% walk percentage on the year, but the swing and miss stuff is still there. It's a 31% strikeout percentage. It's a 46% whiff percentage for Kyle Hirsch this season. So he's still making the adjustments. He's still working his way back from the injury that he had earlier in the season. But one player, perhaps that you saw in spring training, didn't really think anything of it, because I didn't really necessarily think a whole lot of it for him, that's actually doing really well. We don't actually have any footage. I did not save any footage of him. One player to watch that could potentially be called up by the Dodgers organization sometime this year, Wyatt Mills. Wyatt Mills this season, 33% strikeout percentage, 8% walk percentage for him on the season, a 39% whiff percentage during his appearances. If he continues to have this level of success, you talk about different options that the Dodgers could turn to at some point this season as being realistic possibilities for players that, even if it's just we need you to fill in a couple of innings here and there for the Dodgers, he is somebody to keep an eye out for. Keep an eye out for Wyatt Mills. Next, I want to turn to Wyatt Kroll. Wyatt Kroll at Tulsa is pitching so well. 8 innings, no runs, 21.2 strikeout minus walk percentage. He's got a really good mix, but it's really that fastball, that slider against righties that can go down and in. You saw it on this last pitch that he's able to get a decent amount of strikeouts. Had 7 strikeouts in his most recent performance. But I want to take a little bit of a more big picture, because the beginning of last year, Wyatt really struggled out of the gate. But then he had a really good appearance on May 28th. And since May 28th, here is Wyatt Kroll's numbers. It is 86 innings pitched. It's a sub-2 ERA, 1.99 ERA for him, a 27.6 strikeout percentage, a 12.3 walk percentage, 374 FIP, 167 batting average against since May 28th of last year in 86 innings pitched, 1.1 walks and hits per innings pitched. It is tremendous the amount of growth that Wyatt is having. And you're talking about one of the most successful guys over the past year plus. Wyatt Kroll is one of those guys at the very top of the list of having some of the most amount of success going forward for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Super proud of him, proud of the progress that he's been able to make. He's somebody to keep an eye out for going forward, especially with the mix of potential starting options that could be in the mix within the next year or two for the Dodgers. He's firmly in that mix, and if he continues to have this level of success, you could be seeing Wyatt Kroll be pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Next guy I want to turn to, I've talked a little bit about it on the show, but I want to highlight it just because looking at some of the numbers really stands out. Davis Chastain, watch out for this guy. Currently so far this season, just 2 appearances for him, but it's a 63.6% strikeout percentage, 0 walks on the season, and a 34% swinging strike percentage. He is getting a ton of swinging misses for the Great Lakes bullpen so far this season. Swinging miss stuff is absolutely ridiculous. You can see some of the movement that he has and just the ability to be able to get called strikes as well. Davis Chastain is somebody to watch. Recently drafted out of, I believe, Georgia is where he was drafted out of. Really good season for him so far this year. Early goings. Another shout out, and this was for the game that I was at on Saturday. Didn't really get a chance to be able to watch this guy a whole lot last year, but I want to give him a shout out because he was instrumental in the Loons win on Saturday. Dylan Figueredo. Figueredo pitched really well on Saturday's game. Zach Root struggled, reached a pitch limit, gave up a few hits, and was pulled in the first inning, the first round pick for the Dodgers. And it was up to Dylan to be able to go and help limit the damage. Limited the damage to just 1 run in the first inning against the defending Midwest League champion West Michigan Whitecaps, and then pitched through the 4th inning for the Great Lakes Loons. He's off to a really good start to the season. No walks, 25% strikeout percentage for Dylan. Really good start for him. Able to really settle down that game that ended up being a 9-4 victory for Great Lakes. Just want to give him a shout out. And then one other player, we won't get footage on him, Miles Caba. Caba, I was shocked went back to the Great Lakes level to start the season. Left-handed reliever for the Los Angeles Dodgers system. He, so far this season, has a 46.7% strikeout percentage. Miles Caba, I'm not expecting to be at Great Lakes very long. Keep an eye out for him. I talked about this during the offseason. I've posted about it on X. Watch out for Miles Caba. Coming from the University of Miami, I think is where he's from. Really good left-handed reliever. Somebody to watch out for so far this season. That's a little bit of an update. Some things going on down in the farm system. Now let's get into some of the comments for the next 10 or so minutes before I have to go on. If you guys have any questions, have any specific things that you're wanting to be able to talk about, I'll try to address them as rapid fire as I can. As we await what happens for the Los Angeles Dodgers going up against the New York Mets, a really good battle against two teams that are expected to do really well this season. Mets struggling a little bit. Going to be without Juan Soto. Going to be not facing Freddie Peralta this series, but still a highly competitive series for the Dodgers. And you look for the Dodgers to just keep being on the roll, especially with San Diego getting on a little bit of a roll. They're 10-6. They're creeping up on the Los Angeles Dodgers' tail so far. Just keep going out, playing well, and win series. And that's how you have long-term sustained success as we've seen so far. Let's get into a couple of the comments right here, answer some of the questions. Showtime LA, what prospects have impressed you most so far? I got four: Marlon Nieves, Charles Devlin, Patrick Copen, and Jesus Tejero. We did not talk about Tejero, but he's somebody that, just looking at some of the numbers, incredibly impressive. We've talked about his performance, his 5-inning performance that he had in his first appearance. He had another performance, multi-inning performance, no runs again. He's somebody I'm really excited to be able to watch going forward. Haven't watched him a whole ton. Chuck Devlin, Charles Devlin, first round pick, 41st overall pick for the Los Angeles Dodgers last year. His hit tool is remarkable, just being able to watch that. He's able to basically hit whatever pitchers are trying to throw at him. And then I mentioned a whole bunch of guys that I was talking a little bit about during the show today. Let's see. Showtime LA, been good to see Zaire get into a couple, but the 28% K percentage rate concerns me. That's going to be Zaire Hope going forward. Is very likely going to be a 27+% strikeout percentage, but if he's able to tap into his power, which, shout out to Zaire Hope, he had a couple of opposite field home runs, I believe including a grand slam for Tulsa, which, by the way, Tulsa took 5 out of 6 against Springfield, in Springfield. That is, if you've been paying attention to the Texas League, a really good achievement for the Tulsa Drillers to be able to do that. Not something that we have seen a whole lot of in recent history in Springfield. It's really good to be able to see that. Craig Osberg, good to see you. Hope and Tibbs are tearing the cover off the ball. James Tibbs, who we talked about the previous show, hit his 8th home run on the season. Really good to see. Who concerns you most out of the bullpen? Probably Kasperius, is what he said, and probably the same to me so far. Just has to do with his command that he had. Lucy Chen, I'm so happy to see Emmett Sheehan pitch so well on Saturday. He's got so much potential. Absolutely. Chuck Huddleston, we were out of the challenge system early yesterday, losing both early. It seemed like a laissez-faire lineup for the Dodgers yesterday. It was more of a, we want to be able to get some of these guys playing time. You have to play Alex Call at some point throughout the playing time and be able to give some guys rest. You have to play Dalton Rushing, especially if he's performing as well as he is. You have to give him some additional playing time this year. You also have to give a little bit of Santiago Espinal a little playing time. Be curious to see if we see Espinal in the lineup tonight. I don't know if the Dodgers lineup is actually announced yet. We'll see if he is in the lineup. I would also probably expect we'll see it at Santiago Espinal in there as part of the lineup. And Miguel Rojas. I couldn't think of Miguel Rojas' name. I don't know what was going on with me. Probably expect maybe both of them to be in the lineup filling in for Kim and Freeland. And then with the Mets bullpen, they don't have a ton of left-handed relievers, but perhaps you could see Freeland and Kim late in the game. That would at least be my plan, what I would have going into this game. We'll see how the Dodgers actually approach this. Lucy Chen, I think the Dodgers are willing to sacrifice a loss for the Roki Sasaki experiment, and that could be one of the things that the Dodgers took in mind, where it's a day game after a night game, and Roki Sasaki on the mound, which, if you're talking about pitchers for the Los Angeles Dodgers and confidence level, the confidence level in Roki Sasaki is not really high, and I think that is a something to keep an eye on. Lucy Chen, I don't understand Kim's ABS challenge at all unless he thinks about himself and wants to decrease his strikeout rate. We'll see with Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim, Alex Freeland continually batting for the continual roster spot going forward. I think both of them are players that obviously understand the positioning of where they're at, and they're going to be in part playing for themselves. And there is probably going to be a little bit of a feeling that you have to be a little bit selfish. That cannot take hold, and I'm sure the Dodgers organization, if they thought anything about that with Kim, I don't think there is any of that, but if they thought of that with him, they would try to get rid of that as soon as it possibly can, or that's something they're at least going to be able to keep in mind. Just so you guys know, 2026 MLB stats as for Freeland and Kim, this is something we're going to be tracking all the while during this offseason. Again, trying to make sure that we're looking to see if the organization made the correct decision. 130 WRC plus for Kim, 82 for Alex Freeland. Have to dive into that a little bit more. Kim not whiffing quite as much, but we're also seeing Ha-Seong Kim change his approach quite a bit to where he's not swinging as much as he used to. Only a 43% swing percentage compared to a 40.5% for Alex Freeland. A couple of good things for Alex Freeland I want to point out. His average exit velo is good, 92.7 or 92.7 is good. Also, if you look at his heart swing percentage, which league average heart swing percentage is 72%, Alex Freeland, in comparison to last year, is above league average. That is one of the things when you talk about Alex Freeland is he doesn't swing enough pitches inside the zone. We're starting to see him swing a little bit more inside of the zone. It's a little bit too much whiff in his approach right now. Still, whiff percentage 30% or 31% for him. But if he starts swinging at those pitches a little bit more and starts putting those pitches in play, heart balls in play percentage really low for Alex Freeland. Also really low for Ha-Seong Kim as well, who has swinging a little bit less inside the zone, also chasing a little bit more. That's typically the profile, and part of the reason why I believe Freeland got the spot over Kim is just the overall swing decisions aren't necessarily great. But if both of these players grade out around the same, Ha-Seong Kim perhaps could have the average defensively. I think based on the numbers that they had last year, both of them were relatively around the same on the defensive side of things, but where Kim could perhaps stand out a little bit more, and you can absolutely make the argument that it should be Kim over Freeland, is his ability to be able to steal bases. Freeland has shown in the past 30 stolen base potential at the minor league level. We have not seen that at all at the major league level. And so something to just keep an eye out for going forward for both of those players. I just wanted to go ahead, provide you an update on what we're seeing. Unless you guys know, we're still tracking that. Al Minerva, good to see you as part of this mix as well. Lucy Chen, if Tucker doesn't improve, we're stuck with him for 4 years. No way that he'll opt out with how much money he would be able to get. I think that's probably right. But I would also say that his track record suggests that Kyle Tucker is going to be able to bounce back at some point. Shiva Jones, regarding observations, Muncy is an absolute stud. Absolutely. Honey Oats got a prediction. Dodgers win 6-3 tonight. Ocean View Coffee Shop, no Juan Soto tonight. There's going to be no Juan Soto tonight, and probably not for the series. He's currently on the injured list, out for a couple of weeks for the Dodgers. Got a couple of things. Craig Osterberg, bring Kyle Hurt up and send Ben Kasperius down. Just be patient for a lot of this stuff. Hannah Yos, hope we see Patrick Copen make his debut. When he makes his debut, that's going to be movie-esque type of thing. There's going to be people that make a documentary or something about Patrick Copen. Super cool dude, and the story is remarkable, as I'm sure you guys very much are aware of that, as we've talked about. Chuck all of a sudden, Dalton's looked a lot better at the plate lately. Goes good approach right now. He's missed his pitch yesterday, and it showed. Let's see, get into a couple of other these. Hanios, you can tell Rushing loves being a Dodger. Doesn't seem like he would want to be somewhere else. I think he would probably want to get a little bit more playing time, but he is happy with where he is at right now. Chuck Alderson, Espinal at second base, Rojas at short, Teo hitting cleanup. Let's see, Mr. Classic. I'm still in Dodger spring training mode. That's the hat that I decided to choose for this day. Let's see. Getting into a couple of these. Got a couple of questions about WrestleMania this weekend, and we'll get into that as well. Let's see. Well, regardless of Freeland versus Kim, Espinal is the starting at second base tonight. That's going to be the lineup, and my expectation is Espinal would probably get 2 plate appearances, and then as soon as they bring in right-handed reliever that they know they're going to face a right-handed reliever, that's when you could see Alex Freeland or a Ha-Seong Kim come off the bench and fill in during those spots. The next 2 starters for the Mets are going to be righties, so I would expect Kim and Freeland to get the starts the next 2 days for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's a little bit of the overall look into the Los Angeles Dodgers and where they are succeeding, where they're doing well, as far as some things to be able to watch going forward. Overall, the Dodgers are in a really good spot. Major league level, minor league level, they're having a ton of success. Overall, they are tied for the best winning percentage across both minor league and major league record, and their offenses are just absolutely on the roll. We want to see that get a little bit better, though, because there are players that could be performing to a little bit of a higher degree that aren't quite yet. And with Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz, both guys that the Dodgers signed to big money type of deals, want to see them have a little bit more success. With Kyle Tucker, it is, and credit Jeff Spiegel, Jacob Brownson for the posts that they have. Going to continue to give them credit for diving into this, and during a time where I didn't get time to be able to dive into this as much. Kyle Tucker, relax, swing a little bit less. Edwin Diaz, watch for the fastball velo and watch how the Dodgers utilize and go ahead and use Edwin Diaz. I know there's a comment a little bit earlier. Send Ben Kasperius down, call Kyle Hurt up. Well, wait to see what happens with Edwin Diaz first before you go ahead and talk about what the Dodgers should do in that particular moment. Wait to see if Edwin Diaz needs to go on the injured list before sending somebody else down and then calling somebody else up, because then you have to make a second move on top of that. And for the Dodgers, just continue to win series, just continue to play baseball, and trust the process. This has been Dodgers Daily. Fun show today. Just a couple of notes about my upcoming schedule this week. I should be on with Casey. I think the plan is 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific for Wednesday. Going to be Wednesday, more of a pregame show on Jackie Robinson Day, taking you up into first pitch, Dodgers versus Mets. Going to be a fun show for us to be able to do. Jackie Robinson Day, that is going to be the show that I'm able to do the rest of the week. Thursday and Friday, I will be in Great Lakes. Saturday, I've got other plans, and then I'm off on Sundays. Going to be a little bit of as much as I possibly can do, not a ton, over the next couple of weeks for me, just because a bunch of games, Great Lakes. I'll be going to Beloit for a game, then family's going down to Florida for a couple of days, then I got a work conference over, and I'll actually be at a Brewers Diamondbacks game for a work conference that I've got to be at. So there's going to be a lot of different traveling that I'm going to be able to do. But here at Dodgers Daily, we want to be able to provide you guys as much content as possible. Casey, I believe, will be back probably tomorrow morning would be my guess, doing a little bit of a recap of the previous night. Be sure to check that out and everything that we're able to do here at Dodgers Daily. For me and Casey, I believe the next show that we are going to do is on Wednesday, 5:30 Pacific, leading up to the Dodgers versus Mets on Jackie Robinson Day. Really looking forward to that, and excited for baseball to continue to be back, to be able to watch a whole lot of the Dodgers minor league affiliates. I've been able to go to 5 of the first 9 Great Lakes games this year, and I'm looking forward to a whole lot more. So baseball, super fun. Excited to be able to do this show going forward, and looking forward to next time. Until next time, though, thank you for tuning in. Go Dodgers, God bless, and it's a great day to be a Dodger.